All right, everyone. A thread from back on March 29th from Dwayne Cates, hashtag Soul War. The following story is just that, a story. It has no bearing on real world events until certain things either happen or don't happen. This is my theory until new information comes in. China has attacked the entire world with a bioweapon to destroy its structure. Yes, millions might die, but that's not the goal of those who unleashed this. The goal is to destroy the structure of a cohesive, interconnected world that tore North Korea from their orbit, supported Taiwan and the Hong Kong Rebellion, and was poised to bring China to heel. To force them into a trade deal that ended their massive theft of intellectual property and government secrets. China pretended to go along as measures were prepared to wreck the world, with the US leading the charge that was about to force them to pay for their innumerable crimes. Something happened in November 2019 that made Trump go, "What the fuck?" I have no idea what it was exactly, but certain things began to happen at the Justice Department and the CDC. In December, the DOJ begins actively investigating universities who've been taking Communist Chinese Party money under the table. And then this happened. From masslive.com, Chinese national Zhao Songjang accused of stealing biological components. Let me find the exact headline here. Accused of stealing vials of biological materials from Beth Israel Deaconess Medical Center, trying to smuggle the items to China. How did those agents know to be looking for Zhang specifically as someone liable to be smuggling bacteriological materials? They asked Zhang repeatedly before searching his luggage if he was smuggling anything biological. Why would they be asking that? January. Everything blows up. The Dems are busy with impeachment. China's busy hardening up and battening down its hatches as a victim. And Trump is supposed to be caught flat-footed by this, like a deer in headlights. No. Trump smelled a rat immediately, but couldn't act without support. He's not a king, and it's now clear that the World Health Organization lied to him as an agent of the Chinese. The first COVID-19 patient on U.S. soil is identified as a woman in Chicago who also infected her husband. 4 days later, the DOJ arrests Dr. Charles Lieber, the chemistry head of Harvard University, for taking millions from the Chinese Communist Party and not reporting it. Then the DOJ does something weird. This is their public notice at justice.gov. Read it carefully. Link in the description. Want to know why my brother Brian Cates and I, to a lesser degree, are so capable? Because we can read between the lines. Those 3 cases are not separate. Dr. Lieber was spending 9 months of every year, 2012 through 2017, in Wuhan City, helping the Chinese Communist Party build a level 4 biolab, where this pioneer in nanotechnology, Charles Lieber, would be beyond the regulation of U.S. law. His research involved using nanotech to battle and cure viruses, including merging nanotech with viruses to perform tasks, internal clearing of cancer, etc. The Chinese are infamous for taking something someone illegally sold them out of greed or that they stole and then using it for something you'd never considered. They're masters at it. but it was a bunch of harmless steel pipe they realized was strong enough for artillery. Dr. Lieber was arrested on January 28th. President Trump declared a national health emergency on January 31st and stopped flights from China after almost 3 weeks of lies from the Chinese and the World Health Organization. CNN and Democrats piled on, calling Trump xenophobic and racist as the virus spread. Now, in this part of the story, several things happened that are only now being covered by some in the media. China is recalling and buying up massive amounts of PPE, personal protective equipment, with stockpiles of PPE already paid for are turned around. It's claimed China needs them, but China manufactures PPE. Can't they simply make more? Apparently not. And China begins buying a lot of PPE and shipping it safely to China as China begins selling PPE and test kits to the world. PPE that doesn't work and faulty test kits. Understand what I'm saying. China is buying up working and available PPE gear while selling PPE gear that doesn't work. And their test kits almost always give false results, and not just false results, deadly false results. The kits used in Spain were apparently finding 100% of the people tested as negative, including people who had COVID-19. Man, the Chinese must really hate the Spanish. At the time, we had all the rah rah China is great people from the NBS fiasco crowd, like de Blasio and others, telling New Yorkers to ignore Trump and go out and mingle. Don't miss the Chinese New Year, Lunar New Year parade on February 9th. It's going to be apocalyptic. Mardi Gras, February 25th, over 3 weeks after the travel ban and warnings from the CDC to the brain-dead governor of Louisiana and mayor of New Orleans said, come on down, just like the Chinese knew they would. Dr. Fauci and others are floating numbers of millions of Americans dead to wake you up to the danger, but Trump wasn't asleep. He got out in front of this thing and did things that are unprecedented in human history. I was projecting less than 5,000 dead. Now, after a week, 50,000. Because we have fucking idiots running some of our biggest cities, corrupt and dumb as a box of rocks. This interview by Rudy Giuliani is invaluable. The doctor tells you what we're facing without actually saying it. Link in the description. Does that sound like the flu to you? Even a virulent strain doesn't cause nerve damage. I'm fairly convinced it's a bioweapon China has unleashed to collapse all civilizations but theirs, if you want to call what they've become civilized. Now, Trump's looking at self-isolating until April 30th. The 2 weeks was going to get us into our homes, call up ready reserves, and prepare for the hit, slowly clue us in on what's happening, then move heaven and earth to save as many as possible. Trump knows the economy can be rebuilt from ashes if necessary. He can't bring people back to life. Now that we're housebound, he's going to start gently breaking some harsh truths as our response, both foreign and domestic, builds and begins to be seen. This thing the Chinese unleashed must be starved of the human hosts it needs to propagate itself and spread. Trump's visionary response against massive pushback has probably already turned the corner on this thing. So, much like the Pacific War, the question is not victory, it's price. What is the price of victory? Whoever thought these 2 movies would be our present? The Thing, an organism that needed human hosts. Why don't we wait here, see what happens? And Starship Troopers, humanity at war with a bug menace. I'm doing my part. Would you like to know more? Our part is easy. We sit and flatten the curve. If I'm spinning a yarn and all of this was X thousand dead Americans from a wet market in Wuhan, well, it's still pretty serious. But the moves China's been revealed to have made, along with Trump's counter moves, the enemy get a vote. Trump's enemies always underestimate who they're dealing with. China should have accepted its shame and the deal. They don't want equity. They want to conquer, like all the raiders in history. So they unleashed a plague on the world. Trump is going to visit complete destruction on them. They never had a prayer. We offered trade and a return to equity. They gave us death and pestilence. It will be biblical. With that, I close this story. Addendum. The first groundbreaking documentary on the origins of the CCP virus. Full disclosure, my brother Brian Cates writes for the Epoch Times. Real investigative journalism. Again, link in the description. Thanks for listening.